Right, guys. I'd just like to address some comments, and like you hear it a lot now, especially on the UK and American sorts of channels, and that is like they throw in like the wealthiest nation in the world, or a rich country, or in this day and age is one of them in the UK. In this day and age, we shouldn't have to do this, and things should be better than this, and so so the question is Britain wealthy, or is the USA rich, or are they both rich and wealthy? Well, some people are, but the nation as a whole, definitely in the UK, isn't wealthy. So how would you define wealth? Well, the first thing I would say is not in debt. It's like, and then wealthy or rich is above average. The the world kind of standard of living, that's rich. Or you've got surplus money, extra money that you can use for luxuries. Rich countries and rich people. That, to me, that signals that they've got money to spare, as it were. Now, that's far from the case in most of the UK. I mean, you've only got to look at the figures. So, as a nation, I never ever thought it was like rich or wealthy. It was affordable, which is good. I think that's good, being affordable. That's what it is here now. In the Balkans, that's affordable, where every rung of the ladder gets through the day. But that's another issue. That's another thing. And then there's other types of wealth, like property ownership and land ownership, and water. Availability of fresh water, things like that. That's wealth rather than rich. That's a wealth of resources. You wouldn't say a rich of resources, but a wealth of resources. So if you can get to that, a place like that, which is where I am, we've got a wealth of resources here. I've got a spring in the back garden, which it feeds the spring over the road. There's a pipe goes under the house or around the house. I'm not sure which route it takes, but I've got a proper spring with a proper concrete structure and everything at the bottom of the garden. So that's wealth. That's wealth, and the location. You've got a wealth of activities, or a wealth of this. So that's what I would say. Your environment is defined as wealth, and a wealthy country has resources and things like that. Now, a rich country would be like maybe Singapore. They've got a load of money, and they can buy anything in, and they do it with financial services. I think they're like the financial hub of the Southeast Asia. So that's rich when you've got lots of money. Luxembourg, people there, not necessarily a wealth of resources, natural resources, because these places are very small, Luxembourg and Singapore. So is the UK. I mean, I don't know who these people are listening to when they say this day and age, in this wealthy country, in this rich country. It's not rich. Well, the people aren't. The general population are not, from what I can see, are not wealthy, or rich or anything of the sort. And now it's like the inflation and everything's caught up, and that's caused by money printing, nothing else. And if you study fiat money and who prints the money, and it's not the government, although they have mechanisms to raise money, they don't print the money and they don't control the money supply or the interest rates. Although they can influence, and negotiate with the private banks who print the money through debt, and that's what Britain is built on. It's not wealthy, and I think it might have been at one point, but it was more like the higher ups got all the spoils of the of the sun that never sets on the empire, that kind of thing. But I think it ended up costing a lot of money, the empire stuff and Commonwealth and whatever. So wealthy is not. It's owning property and owning land as well, and a lot of people, I'd say most people, either rent or they owe money on property in the UK. So that's that, and there's a national debt as well, which is very high in the UK. So how can you be wealthy? If you're in debt, you can't be wealthy. It's not possible. By definition, it's not. And you can't be rich if you owe a load of money, which all the people do, and the country does as well. And they have to put prices up for whatever reason they say. And the money goes into black holes, like feeding people in hotels and not fixing and the infrastructure. Now that could be classed as wealth. I would say that's a portion of wealth, is the infrastructure of a country and how well it operates, and that can actually create wealth. And the infrastructure's improving no end all across the Balkans, pretty much the same pace actually, some are more advanced than others, from my latest expeditions and adventures, and this is the kind of thing I look at, I think Montenegro, which is where that's had some Montenegro, MNE, Montenegro. That's kind of the MNE that's like GB on a number plate. That's what they have, MNE. So that's quite well developed, and they've spent the money wisely. They're not even in the EU, so it's quite well managed. I don't know whether they got any Chinese money, but like North Macedonia did, and I think Kosovo, although I didn't see that extensively. I've heard it's quite impressive in and around Pristina now. I think they got a lot of money from Saudi Arabia, I think. I'm not sure. But so the infrastructure of a country can be wealth. Now, in Bulgaria, it's accelerating actually. They fixed all the old roads and all. Over the last 20 years, that's all they've done. But they've got a lot of money they were a big net beneficiary from the EU, and they used the money wisely. Although, people would say that all the money was stolen by corruption. Well, some of it was, obviously. It is everywhere. Name of the game. That's everywhere. But there are fruits of the EU investment, and per capita, I mean, these get a lot of big payments, and if you work it out per capita, it's a lot of money, for a small population. And even the roads, I actually looked into that one time, how many miles or kilometres of paved roads there are in Bulgaria versus the UK. I mean, the UK is almost all asphalted. It's like just a network of roads everywhere. A lot of roads that you probably, I don't know, you probably need them for the 70 million or 60 odd million, whatever it is. But there's only 7 million people here, you know, and the towns are quite well placed apart, actually. And it's a square country, so you're not wasting a lot of asphalt going from one end to the other. It's a square country if you look at the map. So you can do like basically there's 3 roads going east to west and the rest go north to south, basically. It's like a crisscross, you know. But a lot of it's wilderness and mountains, a lot of it. You know, in 300-400 kilometres from one border to the coast, the Serbian border to the coast, if you look at our mountain range, there's only about 6 passes go over them mountains, 6 or 7 passes. Not many when you think about the roads in UK, where you can virtually pave the whole of England, really, because there's not all these great big mountains in the way. And that's what's happened. And now they're getting, looks like they're getting beyond the point of repair, beyond the point of maintenance. And you'll never be able to catch up. If you get to the point and your country's in that much debt and there's, you know, that much heavy traffic, etc., 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 and it's too crowded, the UK. So the infrastructure, I would say, is wealth, and that, you know, wealth could be construed as part of the wealth of a country. And things like the internet, which is a lot better here than the UK, in my experience. It was hopeless in the UK compared with here, absolutely. And the rest of the Balkans, everywhere we went, or we seemed to go, however much out of town it is, they always have internet, and it's always good, you know. And places like Romania are renowned, and like we get very, very good speeds here, and that's the internet. The mobile coverage is better here, although it's more mountainous than the UK. The mobile coverage is better. I don't know why. I don't know whether if you have more clients, it's worse, or the internet has more clients, it's slower. I would think so. That's how it works, you know. And the cost, you know. So that's another type of infrastructure. Is the communications infrastructure, and I would say it's better here in that respect, like phone and internet coverage and speeds and costs, a lot better here. And that's one of the major things in this day and age. There's the phrase again, but in this day and age, this place is going that way, and the UK is going that way. Now, people think it's all going to improve and improve and improve. Now, these communications, like the internet and that, haven't improved the UK at all, if you ask me, at all. They waste a lot of people's times, and people look at all the wrong stuff on the phones all day, and they're not educating themselves or anything like that. And you know, they're being used as a distraction, and all this social media rubbish, you know. I don't mean YouTube. You can learn a lot of things on YouTube if you search for, you know, educational stuff, and especially things like dietary things and all that. It's all there, fantastic, and you can compare all different versions and stories, and travel and things like that. It's great, but that's not what people are looking at. don't think, especially the younger people, they're looking at like satanic rappers and things like that, you know, and whatever else they're looking at. But doesn't help anyone. And gardening and all that now to grow things, it's incredible resource of information on YouTube and other places, you know. So if it's used properly, I mean, it's fantastic. I never pick my phone up ever, except if it's ringing, and then I don't usually answer it because it's some like London number. I don't know who's calling me from London all the time, but like whoever it is, I don't want to talk to you, and I'm never going to answer it. Okay, so so you've got that, and then you know that could be construed as wealth, and then you've got freedom of movement and things like that. I mean, it's very prohibitive in the UK. The cost of moving around now on any mode of transport, unless you're on a bike, costs a lot of money, and you're sitting in traffic most of the time that you're on the road. If you're in a car, most of the time. That was my the last few years. It was unbearable in the UK, Northwest, unbearable. It was round the clock. I mean, people try and go and beat the traffic every morning, and all that happens is people get earlier and earlier. And I used to go to work early for that reason, and try and go home a little bit earlier as well, which wasn't appreciated. But like, I started earlier, so that was what I pointed out to people. You know, I was there like an hour before everyone else, because there's a lot of preparation in my job. There's a lot of preparation involved, as in putting data into getting data out of one area to another. There's a lot of technology involved in our equipment, you know. Anyway, that's another story. But yeah, so is Britain wealthy? No. Why is it wealthy? Why? Why would you say it was wealthy and a rich country? Some people are rich, and most of the money's not in Britain, actually. It's in the Cayman Islands and Bermuda and places like that, because Britain is the world centre of money laundering. That's how they've kept going, in my opinion. That's how they've kept going. And as for all the rest of it, I mean, quality of life and stuff like that is I'd say it's quite low, the quality of life. And maybe you could even include weather in and fertility of soils and stuff. And it's quite fertile, Britain, as a wealth, not rich. Rich, I would say, applies to money, finances, and stuff like that, and affordability, which is, I would use that word more than anything now, because that's what Britain has become, unaffordable for everyday people, through various things like the debt-based society, which is, you could say, it's partly, you know, being bought into by the people, which I think it has, more than it should have been, relying on never-ending debt and low interest rates, which nobody says, well, what if this goes up? That's what's happened, and it goes up right across the spectrum. Loans, and that knocks on to the price of things and everything. And the inflation is the money printing, the fiat system, which was always going to happen. That's inevitable in every fiat system, unbacked fiat system. It's a debt cycle system, if you study it. Right, so that's what I think of when people say, like, you know, Britain should be more advanced because it's rich and all that. Well, it isn't. That's the news flash from here. It isn't rich and it isn't wealthy as a nation. Some people are rich. Some things can be construed as wealth, but like it's kind of swapping places with a lot of places. You look at Southeast Asia. Just Google, or not Google, just search on YouTube, Da Nang, Vietnam, and you would think Vietnam in the old days with people on push bikes all around, and just search Da Nang, cost of living, and see how people live there, and look at the place, look in the background. That's what I always look at. Look at the background and look at the seafronts and all that. Everything's immaculate, and anywhere around that place now is improving. I think the Chinese are outsourced that way, downwards. They're outsourcing the outsourcing. You know, all the Chinese are becoming wealthy, and now they're outsourcing to Vietnam, and Vietnam's becoming looks quite wealthy. I mean, I would call that wealthy, although it's cheap to live there. You know, so that's all the definition of rich and wealthy turned on its head. Just look how the people are living there and what they eat. The food is fantastic. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Cheers.